Welcome into today's show, all about home inspections. We're going to talk about how they work, the red flags to look out for, and how to do your home inspection like a pro. Let's go.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
What's happening, my How to Buy a Homies? Man, I have a lot to talk to you about this topic, so I'm going to be real quick here up top. I'm David Sidoni. Everything you need to know about first-time home buying, it's here. It's already recorded. If you're brand new, you don't know where to start, go to episode 400, get the first 10 steps, then you can come back to this episode. All right, let's move right on to home inspections. I'm talking about this because it actually recently came up for me. See, what's happening right now is half of the country is facing historically low inventory. That means the demand is far outnumbering the supply of homes for sale. And that means those few homes for sale, the listings, they're getting multiple offers and bidding wars. And that means I'm starting to hear about the return of sellers asking buyers to waive their home inspection. That can be a scary thing. So I want to make sure that you know everything about your home inspection when you're buying your first home. Man, if I could draw a graph of which first-time homebuyer topics have the most misinformation out there, home inspections, that part of the graph, it would be like 500% larger than anything else. And here's why. A lot of realtors out there, they're desperate to close a deal. So they don't tell you the hard truth. Home inspections, they're going to scare the shit out of you. So be ready. You're going to be appalled, scared, and probably really freaked out. That report is going to be long and intimidating. All home inspection reports look like the one home that you decided to put an offer on was the one that was actually built as a summer camp project by a bunch of junior high kids. And there's one reason why they all look like that: liability. You see, the home inspector's butt, it is seriously on the line because home inspectors are the #2 most sued people in real estate transactions. #1, you ask? Realtors. Way to go, team. So that means to protect themselves, everything gets put in the inspection report. It's confusing. It's overwhelming. And if you're not expecting this, it's going to frighten you to your core. So that's what we're going to fix today. We want to help you understand so you know what to look for, how to react, and you can then turn that inspection into one of your strongest tools in the negotiations for you buying the home that you want. So what you're going to get in today's episode, it's the insider information on home inspections. I'm going to break it down for you from behind the scenes, real talk, not a Google explanation or somebody on subreddit spouting their opinion. And after that, I'm going to give you a comprehensive list of what to look for in an inspection and what that means to your decision if you're going to buy the home or not. We're going to talk about things like foundation problems, lead paint concerns, electrical system red flags, roof issues, and a bunch more items that you might not actually hear about that often, but are things that as a buyer, you should definitely be aware of. Before I give you the whole list, I want to make sure that you can properly assess each item, because it's really important that you understand how the whole process of home inspections and negotiations work so you can figure out, oh, this thing on the list, is that something I should worry about? Or is this something that we're going to be okay with? So here's the first thing about home inspections, and this is my biggest tip, and I say this to you with nothing but love. The guy who's putting all this out for free, I'm really telling you, this is my real honest opinion, so don't be upset with it. Your home inspection and getting your home inspector, this is not where you want to chintz out. This is not where you want to price shop so you can save $100. Yeah, your real estate team, they want to save you everything that they can. And when you get a good unicorn team, they're going to. But if you approach this super frugal and you're trying to save $50, $100, you could end up with a $10,000 problem. The average home inspection, it costs no more than $500 to maybe $1,000 if you're getting some extra stuff. And that's only if the place is really big. What you need to do is ask your unicorn realtor for the best trusted inspectors that they know. Now, if you go out there and you shop online and you hire somebody else because you want to save $50, dude, don't say I didn't warn you. Next, there are some things that you should know even before you do your inspection about the inspection process that can relieve a lot of the fear and the stress. In most areas, you don't actually do the inspection until after your offer is accepted. And that initial offer, that purchase contract, it's got a clock on it. Now, depending on where you live, it's called something different everywhere. That's the contingency period or condition or option period or due diligence period. That means you have a certain amount of time amount of days that you've got to inspect and negotiate repairs or credits from the seller. If all those negotiations go correctly or go as you want them to go, then that's when you decide if you want to move forward before your initial deposit, your earnest money deposit, before that becomes non-refundable. So you've got a certain amount of days that are your buyer beware period. So this is why once you get that offer accepted, you want to schedule your home inspection as soon as humanly possible. Because a standard home inspection, this is how they work. It's a general inspection. And yeah, though they will look at the roof, the foundation, the plumbing, the electrical, the pool, if they see any issues that could be more than minor, then the general inspector is going to put something like this on the report. Quote, such and such was noted on the roof, the pool, the plumbing, whatever, and we recommend further inspection by a specialized roof, plumbing, or electrical professional, unquote. We'll be hitting on some of those items when I get into the list later. But the mistake that I see buyers doing is that they book the general inspection near the end of their clock. Maybe you got 10 days or 15 days or 21 days in your condition or contingency period. But what you need to know is you're getting a general inspection first. And if they call that out for you, you might want to get extra inspections done by a specialist for the roof, the plumbing, the electrical, whatever. So my recommendation is get that general home inspection done as soon as possible so you still have time to get the specialized vendor out there before you run out of time on your due diligence or contingency period, whatever it's called in your area, because you want to have time before the seller starts saying, hey, let's go, put your deposit in, clock's done. Next up, one of the things that you need to know going in is understanding that a home inspection is not pass or fail. Every home out there, all the resale homes, they're going to have issues. And you know what? There are even issues in new construction homes. The goal isn't to do an inspection to get a perfect house and get a passing grade. The goal is that you understand, so that you have complete comprehension of what's going on in the house. You figured out what's normal, what's expensive, what's dangerous, what's negotiable, and what could become a financial nightmare later on. That inspection, it's really a leveraging information tool. The small problems become a simple to-do list after you move, and the larger items, those get negotiated. Or if you can't come to an agreement with the seller, well, then that's your reason to rerun the financial viability of this deal and decide if you want to push through or you want to walk away. This is where having a great unicorn team becomes critical, because inexperienced agents, well, they're either going to panic unnecessarily or they're going to minimize problems just so they can keep this deal alive. Here's some quick tips to remember before going into an inspection. In the case of a resale home, remember, you're buying a used product. All used products have wear and tear. Nothing built remains functional and operational forever. So you and your team, big part of what you're doing is evaluating the service life. That's what they call it. The service life left on your major items like your roof, your electrical, your plumbing, all that stuff. One of the things I see totally overblown when I'm watching buyers talk online, especially in those subreddits, water heaters. A water heater, yeah, it lasts 10 or 12 years. And therefore people think, oh, maybe it's time to replace it. It's only $2,000 to replace it. The average electrical full upgrade is $3,500. And that's average. A full plumbing repipe, $10,000. And a roof replacement, $15,000 to $20,000. So if the water heater is 10 years old, it is absolutely not a reason to bail on that home, especially if it works for you and your family. You're talking about $2,000 in a negotiation for what, a $400,000 home? Okay, now moving into some general expectations with the home inspection. Don't expect the homeowner to look at a home or maintain a home the same way that you do. Expect to see things that you might consider unacceptable. But then when we're talking about home inspections, you have to remember this phrase: working condition. That's a big part of the entire home inspection report. Now, if the heater's old, but it's still functioning during the inspection, even if it's at the end of its life, as the inspectors say, it still works today. It's functioning, working condition. Remember, you're buying the home today, not a year from now. But the good news is that your unicorn realtor is going to be sure to get you a home warranty for the first year of your home ownership for anything that is at the end of its life and might break during that first year. So you're going to have to learn to separate things, like there's a hole in the wall from a doorknob. Cool, that's cosmetic, not working condition. But if the home's kitchen stove doesn't turn on, or the air conditioning doesn't pass the test during inspection, well, then that's not in working condition, and that's an issue for you to negotiate either a repair or a credit. One of the areas where most of the reasonable sellers, where they're probably going to negotiate with you beyond the working condition stuff, is safety issues. Now, a lot of older homes, they're definitely going to need to upgrade some electrical outlets to what we call a GFCI outlet. That's for outlets that are within 6 feet of water. The safety outlets, the ones with the little red and black buttons, I see them on almost every report here on a home that was built in either 1980 or before. The cost is about $30 to fix it DIY or about $150 to hire an electrician. So most of the time we can negotiate something with the seller because that's a safety issue. But keep in mind, in most states, when you negotiate that original offer, your purchase contract, it's an as-is sale. There's a mutual understanding, usually, that unless the seller specifically says in their contract, no repairs, as is, well, most of the time we think that the buyer and the seller are going to work together and they're going to be willing to negotiate after the home inspection because everyone knows that's part of the process. But never forget this. Selling a home is what we call a one-off sale. It's one seller selling one thing, one time. There is no manager to complain to if you don't like how they respond. They can deny all your requests. And I'm telling you, some sellers be crazy. So here's the best way to approach a home inspection. Think of it as a to-do list. I educate buyers like this. All right, the inspector, they're going to come up with something. What we're going to do is we're going to figure out a number that you're going to be okay with for non-essential immediate repair items. Sometimes it's $1,000, sometimes it's $3,000. Sometimes if they love the place, it's like, you know what? I know there's going to be a lot of cosmetic stuff. So if the inspector finds like up to $5,000, none of it needs to be done right now. We still want to buy the house. So when you're going into the deal, figure out your number so that you can put your to-do list together. Once it surpasses the value that you've negotiated in the home price, then perhaps that's where you want to consider, should I stick this out or should I bail on this one? But here are some things to consider. How competitive was it to get this home? Do you think that you have a shot at getting a home like this for the same price? Have interest rates changed in the past few weeks? And right now you're under contract. And what happens if you go out and you have to get a new home and rates have gone up? Take a good look at all the items that were pointed out in the inspection. Is it going to cost you more to repair those items? Or is it going to cost you more to start completely over on your home search, pay another month of rent, and trying to find another comparable home? So all these questions depend on the pre-research that you and your team have done ahead of your home shopping. Looking at the current market trends in your area, like are you in a multiple offer situation with most homes out there or are you in a slow market? And then most importantly, when you pick that number for your to-do list, that'll really help you because you're going to be looking at, hey, you know what? Maybe I want to push this number up a little bit because this particular home fits perfectly into my financial and my personal goals. So after you've evaluated all of that, then you can go over the findings from the general inspector and the specific vendors if you needed to get any of those, and then negotiate with your acceptable to-do list items and the other costs that you're thinking, I need this stuff to be covered by the seller. Okay, there's your crash course on how home inspections work. So now let's get into the list of the red flag items. Now, here's the thing about red flag items. There is no one red flag list for everybody because buying a home, each buyer is totally different. You're all going to come in with different ideas, not to mention different financial things and different goals. And then you need to know this. As you're looking at different homes, there's going to be different red flag items for different homes because each one of them is going to have a personal value to you based on how many boxes it checks. How does this work financially for all your goals? And how does this work personally for your goals? So I've got a list of 17 items, and I'm not just going to tell you what they are. I'm going to tell you what you should do with that information. The first one, the foundation. This is the king of inspection anxiety. Now, some cracks in the foundation, they're perfectly normal. They're settling. Here in Southern California, earthquake country, I've been seeing that for 2 decades. Now, other cracks or imperfections, they might signal foundational movement or water intrusion or structural instability. Some of the warning signs that you might be looking for are what they call stair-step cracks, or perhaps uneven floors in the home. Maybe the doors aren't closing properly, or you find bowing walls places. And if you're looking at the foundation, you're seeing large horizontal cracks, something you got to get checked out, because real foundation issues, they can be serious. So if you see those signs, hire a foundation specialist to determine if the movement is active or old, and then have them evaluate all of the previous repairs done. If the major issues are found with a foundation in a home, it's going to be a pretty serious negotiation that's going to affect how much you should pay for the home. It's not just like, oh, let's get a little credit here. It's, whoa, should we adjust the price? Should we get a credit and have this fixed? It's a big deal. And if the seller's unwilling to accept your professional's findings, that is a red flag. That's a big ticket item that could bite you in the butt later. And you should have serious discussions with your realtors about walking away from that deal. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the seller really doesn't know, but I have seen some sellers try to pretend like it's not a thing, and that's pretty shady. Item number 2, your roof. Inspectors like to talk about roofs in the term of its lifespan. They say, yeah, usually these have a 20 to 35-year lifespan. This one looks like it's near the end of its life. Here's what you got to know about roofs. They're expensive. And one that's not in proper condition, it's not just that you're going to have to replace the roof someday, but you're going to have leaks, and that can cause mold, insulation damage, structural rot. And it can even be a reason that you get denied homeowners insurance, which means you can't get a loan to buy that house. Roof problems are consistently among the top inspection red flags all across North America. So always verify by asking the seller, hey, how old is this roof? Request any insurance claims on the roof, any history of roof repair. And then, if it's near the end of its life, get a repair or replacement estimate before you remove your contingencies, conditions, or whatever it is that releases your earnest money deposit. You want to properly evaluate how you want to handle this. Number 3 on the list, water damage. Water is the silent destroyer of homes. If you're finding stains or warped flooring, or if you have musty smells in the house, or bubbling paint, or damp basements, this can all indicate hidden leaks, drainage problems, a roof issue like we just talked about. It could be plumbing issues, and it could definitely mean potential mold. You got to have your inspectors check the grading and the gutters as well, because you want to see how the home drains. Also, if you are going to get deep in this, make sure that you get a specialist to identify the active moisture source. Find out if they recommend that you need to go to the next level and get a test with what they call a moisture meter. And that's because that leads into number 4 on the list, mold. Mold is usually a symptom of moisture, and it's not the root of the problem itself. If you stop the moisture from getting someplace, then you can stop the mold. Now, some mold, it is minor and easily fixable. Other mold, that can indicate chronic moisture, and most importantly, that can be a toxic air problem. So buyers, ask your inspectors to determine the extent and the type of the mold if they find any, and see if it can be corrected by repairing the moisture source. If it's a bigger problem, then you might need to ask for what's called a mold remediation. That's where they're going to test the air, and then they're going to tell the seller, yep, this is bad news. We got to remediate the whole house and do the full repair. That can be really expensive. So you got to make sure that you hire a specialist to present those findings to the seller if you're going to ask them to do it. Number 5 on the list is electrical. Electrical hazards. Yeah, it's one of the most common safety-related inspection concerns that pops up on that report. Here's some information you probably don't know. There are some old electrical panels, like there's ones from Federal Pacific and ones from Zinsco. These are famous for being fire risks. So if you got that, ask them to change it. You also want to look for overloaded circuits. You want to look for aluminum wiring. You also want to look for something called double-tapped breakers. Just ask your inspector about that. Of course, you always want to make sure if there's any DIY work done, that it was done correctly. A good general inspector will let you know if you're good to go, or if you need to hire a licensed electrician to do another inspection. If you got a really old home, that's when electricity gets really interesting, because before the 1950s, there was something called knob and tube wiring. It's the type of electrical system that absolutely was not made to handle today's modern appliances. It lacks grounding, and it is a serious fire risk. So if you've got knob and tube, definitely hire an electrician to get the estimates. Number 6, we got to talk about the plumbing, the sewer, and the septic tanks. Now, first up, I have to let you know, I've never personally served any buyers with a septic tank. We don't have them here. If you've got septic tanks in your area, that's a question for your local realtor. I don't know about it, and I'm not about to try to give any recommendations. Now, what I do have 20 years of real world experience with is the piping in suburban California, which is similar to the piping around a lot of the country. So I can talk to you about clay pipes, galvanized steel pipes, cast iron pipes, copper pipes, polybutylene pipes, PEX pipes, ABS pipes, PVC pipes. That's a sampling of all the different types of piping that might come in your home. So this is something that you're going to want to talk with your inspector about before the inspection and have them give you a full breakdown on the life expectancy on whatever type of pipes that your home has. And ask them if there are any regional specific problems. This is a big deal because sometimes when an entire track gets done during a certain time period, all of a sudden the entire block will start to have a slab leak or a pipe leak problem, because that means that all the pipes hit a certain age and boom, now their life expectancy is over. So a lot of times you can get great information from realtors and as well as your inspector. And the final tip I have for you is one that I learned the hard way. This is about the pipes that go out to the sewer system. Now, in the beginning of my career, one of my favorite clients' front yard, about 6 months after they bought the home, turned into a giant sinkhole. This was before doing a full sewer scope was a must-do for buyers. And I learned, oh my goodness, you need to do a full sewer scope. You need to check that out before you buy a home. I know it's not part of a general inspection in a lot of places, but get a sewer scope. Look for root intrusion. Look for old clay pipes. Look for what they call offsets. And look, if it's a couple $100 on top of that $400 or $500 general inspection, pay it. $200 is better than a $20,000 repipe and rebuilding your entire front yard. I learned this the hard way. I don't know why this isn't an actual mandatory inspection, especially for first-time home buyers. Number 7 is your heating, venting, and air conditioning units, also known as your HVAC. Furnaces and air conditioning units, they've got lifespans, so have your inspector verify the age, ask for the service records, and let you know, hey, you know what? This one's a little older or this one's not working properly. You should hire an HVAC professional to come out. And most of the time, your general inspector is going to do a really good job, especially they're also going to let you know what's going on. They've got little temperature gauges that they put up to the vents. And they're also probably going to go up in the attic and they're going to check the air ducts, because what they're looking for there is gaps or holes. And that means some of the energy is going where up in the attic where it's not doing anybody any good. Number 8, termites and pests. Now, this is different everywhere. In California, here's one of the things that happens here is that you can't even get a loan on a home unless the lender gets a completion of some termite work. It's removing the active infestation or untreated damage that can compromise the structural integrity of the home. It's what they call Section 1 work. So what do you do about that? Well, no matter where you are, have your termite and pest negotiation talk with your realtor before you even see the report. That way, you know what you need to get a loan and you know what is just stuff that you can ask the seller for in your negotiations. Number 9, draining and grading. This is something that I've learned a lot about as a realtor because I never really thought about it, but your home should be like at the top of a hill. Home inspectors, if they had it perfect, your home would be at the top of the hill and everything would flow down from it. Because water is the silent killer. You want everything to flow away from your house. Any pooling by the foundation or in the garage, you're looking at a serious issue. And while they're looking at that, make sure the gutters and downspouts flow away from the home as well. Number 10, your chimney. Fireplaces are awesome, but cracked flues or deteriorating masonry, that can be a fire hazard. So when you're talking to your general inspector, if they see any signs of things that are above and beyond the normal, regular, just kind of wear and tear on the chimney, that's when you got to get a chimney specialist in there. And then here's another tip for you. Once you move in, make sure you pay for a chimney sweep, even if it's in the middle of summer. Look, you don't know how often the seller has used that fireplace. They may never have used it. And most importantly, when was the last time they got it cleaned? You don't want the first time that you decide to snuggle up at a fire in your new home to be completely surprised with a soot-filled nightmare. Number 11, asbestos. This is very common in popcorn ceilings, insulation, flooring, and duct wrap. And the important thing to know about asbestos is that it's not always dangerous unless it is disturbed. A lot of times you can do what they call encapsulating certain areas and make it safe. The big thing to know about if there's any asbestos in your home is to understand that it exists. And then if you ever remodel or tear that area out, take the recommended safety precautions before you disturb that asbestos. Number 12, lead paint. This is common in homes pre-1978. Truth of the matter is, lead paint, most of it has been painted over or it's gone. So unless your kids are prone to eating paint chips, then you're probably going to be all right. You want to have your realtor go over the lead paint disclosures. That way you can get all the information on what's going on in your specific area. Number 13, windows that have a seal failure. A lot of times in homes with dual pane windows, you're going to see some fogginess. That means there's a broken seal. What that can do is it can lead to higher heating and cooling bills and possibly provide some moisture issues. And occasionally you want to check to make sure there's not soft wood or cracking on the exterior frames because that can be a buffet for the termites. But a lot of times, if you got a foggy window, it's one that buyers put on their to-do list for down the line, especially if they love the rest of the home. Because if you've got to ask the seller to replace one window, you're likely going to ask them to replace them all, and that can be a big number. Number 14, decks and railings. There's no compromise on this one. This is a safety issue. If your inspector calls out your deck or your balcony, unless you're absolutely cool with tearing it down, you need to get a specialist out there to check it out and make sure it's safe. Number 15, DIY renovations. One common misconception with buyers and sellers is that, I'm buying a home, it's got to be up to code and all permitted before they sell it, right? Absolutely not true. You can sell a home with no permits and not being up to code. And the contract will say that it's the buyer's responsibility to do all the due diligence. So if you really want to know all that stuff, some sellers might do it for you, but be ready. It's probably up to you to go out and pull all the permits. Buyers purchase homes all the time without everything being up to code or renovations being permitted. So talk to your realtor and your inspector because sometimes you do need to know about that because your specific loan might have mandatory requirements and you want to know what to expect and what you have to tell the seller, look, I have to have this done correctly, up to code or permitted or done in what they call a workmanlike fashion. Otherwise, I can't get a loan on this home. Number 16, inspect your attic as best that you can. You got to make sure your inspector's going up there. They want to look for leaks, poor insulation, or critters crashing up there rent-free. Poor attic ventilation or insulation, that can also be a problem. Not something that's going to tear your house down, but it's going to destroy your energy efficiency. And if it's really bad, then you might end up having some mold issues. And our last one on the first list, number 17, your smart home tech and solar. In new homes, these aren't just bells and whistles anymore. They're practically infrastructure. So you got to make sure that all your smart home features, your thermostats, your cameras, your security systems, or anything else, that they're all functional. And a lot of times you need to make sure that they're going to transfer with the sale. When it comes to solar panels, if you see solar panels on a home, do not just assume that that's an easy thing to figure out. Talk to your realtor about it. You have to find out if they're owned or lease, what the contract terms are. And eventually, as you're getting into the point where you're getting a loan on the house, all that information is crucial that you have the exact information. Otherwise, you might not be able to get a loan on the property. Okay, that was the normal stuff. Now, let me give you 10 things that I don't hear a lot of people talk about. These are the red flags that are hidden from a lot of first-time home buyers. Stuff that's not on your radar. Number 1, finished basements. They're awesome, but that finish might be hiding stuff behind it. A beautiful basement might cover cracks, water intrusion, or other structural issues. A lot of inspectors themselves actually say, hey, that limited visibility, it can be tough for us. So make sure they do a thorough inspection down there. Number 2, this is kind of obvious, but flipped homes. Look out for lipstick on that pig. Sure, it's got fresh paint and shiny appliances and new carpet. It's really pretty, but it could be hiding huge issues. Always check the big ticket items. Number 3, masking smells. This is something I see all the time. People are using way too many candles or scents at the open house, and then we show up at the inspection, and that's great. Thank you for cleaning the house and making it good for us, but don't do an inspection with a bunch of candles and scents happening. That can intentionally mask the musty mold or sewer smells even. Gross. So at your inspection, get rid of all the artificial scents and make sure that it is a scent-free check so that you can find out what the smell really is. Number 4. This is kind of an obvious one, but something that a lot of people kind of stopped talking about because some of the sewer systems got better. Big trees. Yeah, there's a problem. They might be able to get into your pipes, but now they can check for that pretty easily. But what people don't talk about is if it's very close to the home, that could be a problem for your foundation or your retaining walls. So make sure if it's a big tree near the actual outside of the home, that you know where those roots go and talk to a foundation specialist. Rare red flag number 5, bathroom vents that go directly in the attic and not outside. That can create moisture, which creates mold. Make sure bathroom vents that they go all the way outside. Same thing with your dryer vent. Number 6, this is something a lot of people have been talking about these days, home insurance. Look, there's no way around it. Insurance sucks. You just got to deal with it right now. Eventually, the entire industry is going to have to figure out a way to make it more affordable, but man, things are getting rough right now. So before you even start making offers on home, talk to your insurance agent about, hey, what's going on? How do we insure? Because we need to know what's going on in our area right now. They might not be insurable, and that could be due to the roofs, the piping, the wiring, and most recently, because of these natural disaster zones. If you're in a fire zone or a flood zone or hurricane or tornado, and in today's housing market, you can't fall in love with a home until you've got that full insurance quote and add that to your PITI payment. Sometimes you can't get it till you have an actual address. That's another thing you should do right after you get your offer accepted. Number 7, this is something I didn't know about until I got into real estate. Do you know that your HVAC system, that oversizing can be a problem? You know, people are like, man, they go all gigantic, huge air conditioner because they want to make sure their house is super cool. Great, but those oversized systems can cycle improperly and they can create humidity and mold issues. So ask your inspector, is this normal size? I don't want this supersized. And then number 8, you've got your foundation patchwork. We talked about how important the foundations are, but you want to make sure that if there are cracks there that have been kind of filled in or partially repaired, you got to get all the details on any visible repairs that happened in your foundation. And number 9, this is one that a lot of people don't really think about. If you're buying a home that's been vacant for a long time, vacant homes can develop dried plumbing traps. That's a thing. There could be unnoticed leaks. There could be pest issues. There could be deferred maintenance, stuff that was in wear and tear, bad shape before they left the house, and it went unchecked. So make sure all the utilities are back on and ask them for any maintenance records if you're buying a home that's been vacant for a long time. And then number 10, each area is going to have individual specific tests because there are things that happen in your region that might not happen in another. So make sure you ask your realtor, hey, what are the things we need to know here? Do we have a radon gas test? Do we have well testing? Do we have septic system testing? Find out what's going on in your neighborhood. Okay, those are the 2 big lists. So to wrap things up, remember, your home inspection is with a general inspector, which is kind of like a general practitioner. They do overall checkups, but if anything looks funky in the house, that's when they're going to bring in the specialists, the roofers, the plumbers, the electricians, the mold experts, the sewer line professionals. That's why I always say, get the inspection done early in your contingency window so you have time to investigate before your earnest money deposit due date. And it's a good idea when you're out looking at homes, you're getting ready to put in offers, make sure, hey, you talk to your unicorn realtor, be like, hey, you got that list of professional vendors ready to go? Make sure that they've got all those people and that you know, so you're not going to have to make a bunch of phone calls at the last minute when you're in the contingency period. So your bullet points for home inspection, schedule it fast. Don't wait till the 10th day of your contingency period to schedule it, and don't cheap out on your inspector. Also, make sure you understand what's normal versus what's an actual red flag. Every home, even the new ones, are going to have issues. Focus on the safety, the structural, the plumbing, the electrical, the HVAC, the roof, the big ticket items that are going to be expensive problems or health and safety concerns. That report, which was going to scare the bejesus out of you until I told you everything about it, you can use that to negotiate. Sometimes just because it's an as-is sale, well, it doesn't mean that you can't try to negotiate. You might not get any repairs, but you can still ask for credits. And if you don't get anything and what you see is too much, then you can walk. Your home inspection gives you leverage. It gives you options. Make that home inspection your to-do list. If the issues are manageable, that's fine. That's your checklist. Prioritize what needs fixing. And then when you move into the home, make a budget it out. Keep that inspection report. And remember, inspectors want to tell you everything, but they're also covering their own butts too. They don't want you to come back and sue them because you find out something later and go, no one ever told me about that. Their goal isn't to predict the future or guarantee the perfection of a home. They're just there to identify and visible and accessible problems. You got to bring the brain power and the specialists in if you want to get an incredibly deep picture of what the home's going to cost you. And then the last thing, I know that there are bidding wars going on in the Northeast and part of the Midwest and the North too. I was hearing Milwaukee's having bidding wars going on right now. Look, waiving your home inspection, it might be happening in your area. What you need to do is ask your unicorn to do everything you can to still get one. Unless it's a very specific apartment or condo where everything's cookie cutter and any major repairs are going to be covered by the HOA, I do not recommend buying a home blind. Look, they can ask you with a negotiation, say, look, you can do an inspection, but we're not going to give you anything. Fine, I'll waive credits or repairs, but I still want to do an inspection. I want to know what I'm getting into. That's the way you determine whether you should move forward or walk away from a deal. That's just my 2 cents. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share this podcast with any of your friends who are thinking about buying. And if you're ready to build your unicorn team, get your ride or die realtor and lender crew, people are going to help you through the home inspection process, just go to howtobuyahome.com and hit the Find Me a Realtor, Get Me a Unicorn button. I got you. You can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuyahome.com to get started.